Hello everyone, one and all. Welcome to Unicorn Light Tarot. If you are here for the very first time, welcome, and if you are returning, welcome also. I sincerely hope everybody is doing hopefully amazingly well out there. So today I thought what we would do is messages from your heart. This is inspired by somebody, one of the subscribers actually, shout out to you, who came up with this. And I actually thought I had done a reading already very similar to this, and I've done heart readings and love readings and things like that, but this is a little bit different. So I really appreciated this new way of moving forward. And I am actually filming this on the super new moon here in Scorpio, and by the time this is uploaded and available for you tomorrow, this will also, depending on where you are in the world, will also be the new moon for you, but we'll still be under the influence of the new moon, of Mercury going direct. So a lot of stagnant energy is shaking off, and we're able to move forward really quickly on our dreams. And another reason why I felt this was important, I was reading a thread recently, and somebody was saying, well, I listen to my mind, I listen to my logic, so I know I'm right. And again, first thing I thought is good for you. It's always nice to feel as though you have an understanding of what's going on. So no judgment. But the first thing I thought was, like, every time I listen to my mind or I'm too pragmatic, I actually go off in the wrong direction. So I thought to myself, why not do, if you live from your heart and you're living from your intuition and you're living from your heart space and you're listening to your heart, that's how you know that you actually are letting in the right kind of information, rather than letting logic kind of get in there and tell you all sorts of things. I, personally speaking, I've gone off in many different directions when I've listened to logic or what my mind tells me is true. So checking in with messages from your heart today, I felt like would be very important. So we're going to be channeling, the sort of the heart chakra wisdom today, and getting you some true and clearer messages of divine wisdom in our pick a card reading. So as always, we have 3 piles. Our first pile has the clear quartz. Second pile has our tiger's eye here. And the third pile has our, and our very energetic turquoise here, which is native to where I live in New Mexico. So as always, take as much time as you possibly need. If you need to go ahead and pause the video, go ahead and do that. The timestamps are always down below. It's important for you to get back into your own energy and take as much time as you need. If you have, if you have time, I know sometimes that's a luxury, but the more your energy is in alignment with your own intuition, the more in alignment you will be with these beautiful messages that will come through us today. And also, as always, we have our healing and activation energy going on with our beautiful candle here, our healing candle with our magic oil that was made under the full moon many moons ago. It was actually an eclipse too. So you can either release what no longer serves you, or you can bring in new abundant energy. Any way that you want to work with this, whether it's activation or healing, getting some guidance, support, however you want to use these readings is very much up to you. So let's go ahead and move into these readings. So if you chose pile 1 in the clear quartz, again, we are channeling messages from your heart and heart chakra wisdom today. So we are going to start off with a couple of tarot, and then we will move into some oracle cards and get you some messages of the heart. So we have 2 of Cups. Lovely. And that is your first card. And then you have the Knight of Pentacles here, reversed. So let's go ahead and get your oracle cards too. Positive outlook is your Ganesha card here. Then you have guilt here. And then you have the Holy Spirit, expect miracles. And then you have change, number 5. Absolutely wonderful. Okay, so the main message that I'm getting for you, pile 1, and the clear quartz would be wonderful for you to actually work with and clear old energy too, is you really don't need anything else to move forward except for to start listening to your own wisdom. This is a perfect reading for you, pile 1, for those of you who chose the clear crystal. Perfect reading. And I'm so glad that you're here today, because you literally are those who you listen to. You very acute intuition, and when you listen to it, it's absolutely firmly guided, but then you plop back into this sort of pragmatic kind of control versus alignment state, so you can take care of business. And there's a part of you too that's working through the perfectionist element of wanting to be seen when everything is in quote unquote in place. A lot of people, a lot of healers, and certainly a lot of creative type people, I don't want to say the word suffer, but definitely go through this too. And the idea of making mistakes too, you understand that you make mistakes, and you actually give space to other people's mistakes, and really understand at a core level for other people that so much beauty comes out of mistakes. Sometimes you have to go down this road to figure out that's not what you wanted. And I've always said that I would prefer a life of many mistakes rather than a life of almost having what you want every single time. Because if you're in a situation where everything is kind of falling apart, you really have the chance to pick and choose what it is and who it is that you want in your life. Whereas if you're at this sort of level where everything's pretty good, it could be better, but it doesn't necessarily put that fire under your butt to make those changes. So you allow that energy for other people and accept that other people make mistakes. When it comes to making mistakes with you and how they've treated you, that's slightly different, but we don't need to go down that road. And you've worked on those boundaries between where somebody else starts and you begin, and those boundaries too. And even though you're a lot of you are feeling like you're not getting the backlash of that, but you're certainly seeing, all right, I've stood for myself. I have these boundaries. I no longer need these people in my life. I no longer need this. And people and situations are automatically falling away. And then you're stuck in what we call the void, or you feel as though you're stuck in what we call the void. And at times that can be quite lonely for you, but you've still made the decision to stand in your own power and have those boundaries. So that's wonderful. So that's nothing that we need to bring up, but it's really just a case of really allowing this intuitive, heartfelt knowledge to increase in your life. And this guilt about what you've done, when you look back on your life, and you can be, and again, these are always general readings, so take what resonates if this part of the reading is for you, but you seem to be quite down on yourself and quite hard on yourself. It's almost like, I've said this in other readings, it's almost like you feel as though the way in which you're living is like you're being graded by someone. And this attitude or this connection that you have to the universe, and some of you may have this, and again, if this is something that you're resonating with, please take it to heart. If it isn't, then great. But some of you have this sort of like deep found connection with the universe, but there is this integral belief that that's been sort of added in somewhere along the line that isn't true, that the universe only helps you out when you are good, or when you're doing well, or when you've made the right decision. It's almost like the universe has this kind of agenda, as it were, and it judges good versus bad, evil versus good. It really doesn't. The universe sees the light and dark in everyone in every situation. And if you do something that's, that you're not so proud of, they're not sitting there going, sometimes I feel as though, and karma is very, very complicated. I feel as though when some people sort of try to break it down, they oversimplify it. This idea that if you do something absolutely terrible, it'll come back to you. I'm not saying that it won't, but it works in a completely different idea. Again, it's much more layered and much more complex than that. And it comes to the point for you, pal one, it's almost like you can be really sort of like frozen as to what to do, because unless it's absolutely brilliant and you can guarantee that you're not hurting anyone, that you're stuck, you don't want to move forward because of these ideas that you've come in with karma, that you've come in, or that you've picked up from society, from the universe and who it chooses. And that's the thing, you've seen this. You've got a very pragmatic personality. You're an observer. You see people who are not that great, honestly. And when we say not that great, it's that their integrity has been sort of somewhat compromised, or they've gone off in certain directions, and they're so confused, or they're not clear. They're not as clear as channel as they think they are. We're just using as an example. We're not pointing anything out. And yet they seemingly are doing really well, and and then you're sitting there, pal one, going, well, they're doing really well, what am I doing wrong? I mean, it's the moving forward that the universe like balances. I mean, how does this all work? So for you, it's about like really coming back to who you are, and really letting those sort of structural complexities of how you view karma, and how you view the universe, and how it really works, and how you've tested, or you think you've tested the universe, not necessarily karma, but how you feel as though you've tested the universe. And sometimes you feel as though everything is going right and everything's wonderful, and you've got a hell of a lot of integrity moving forward, and nothing really takes off. So if there's a little bit of confusion about how it is that you work, and again, you're comparing yourself to people who don't seem to have quite as much as integrity as you, but they're doing so much more in many ways. And again, you're not comparing yourself in the way that you're saying they're bad and you're good or anything like that, but it's just an observation. You're observing. You've got that scientific mind, that 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 takes things apart and wants to put things together, and has that very logical output, and very pragmatic and grounded in many ways. Some of you may be too grounded. You need to lift your spirits up, and I do appreciate this mindset too. It's like, you want things proved to you. So that's another reason why moving forward for you could have been difficult, because you're waiting for things to take off. You're waiting for things to be a little bit more secure before you get out there. And when you have, and you've heard these things before, sometimes you just got to take the leap, and you felt as though you've taken the leap and you've stayed in exactly the same place. So you're trying to figure out what works for you and what doesn't. So we can say that there's definitely change coming in. And everything that you put your energy in and around was a timing aspect. So the timing and the timelines are converging. So whatever you put energy out into, you will definitely get back, and you will definitely see these results. Now, you're being asked to step up sort of in a brand new way, to actually profoundly trust. Now, this is a very sort of specific way you can do this. Now, for those of you who have had issues with trusting the universe, because a lot of you have had some tough times coming in and out of different versions of yourself as you've grown into the version that you are now, and that's totally understandable. You've also allowed yourself a lot of experiences, which is wonderful. You're definitely here to see everybody's point of view, and one of the main reasons that you can do that is because you've pretty much been through everything yourself. So you can see a part of yourself in absolutely everyone, be it where they've come from, what they've gone through. And even if you haven't gone through the exact experience, you can hold space for that person and allow them to have that experience without you having to project your experience upon their experience and filter their version of reality through your version of reality, if that makes sense. Now, that's particularly rare. And you have the essence to do that because of the way in which you've gone through life. So feeling guilty about, your seeming sort of quote unquote, to be, to quote the French fuck ups, is not actually in alignment with who you are. You've gone through a lot of shadow work. You've seen a lot of darkness, and you're here to actually expel that darkness. So you needed to go through all of it to be able to see it, to be able to understand it from the inside out. But now what you need to do is, where you're being asked, you don't need to do anything, you do whatever it is that you want, but you're being asked, should you want to release your outlook from the sort of negative, to release your outlook from the darkness. You've been in the darkness so long, you're being asked to release all of the darkness and work from the light. So it means when you look back on your life, allow everything that's happened and say, yes, you were a completely different person when you did that. And if you're embarrassed by what you've done or who you were before, that's totally fine. The child that you were was different to the 12-year-old and the 16-year-old. And then, however old you are, if you're 17, that you were still very different when you were 4. I mean, everybody's different when they're 4 to like 17, but a lot of people have the same sort of ordinances or same sort of traits, and you really don't. You're a completely different person. You might even look completely different. Some people, you can look at somebody's baby photos or when they're a child of 3 or 4, and you can look at them now and you can absolutely see the same people, the same person right in that face, and they're just a little bit older. For most of you, if you look back on your child, there's a remnants of who you were, but you look completely different now. A lot of people would put the two photographs together and you would not look the same at all. You're also the sort of person that sees energy around people. So, people can look quite ominous to you, and that's because they hold dark energy. So they will look very different to you than they would to, somebody else standing next to you, looking at that same person, would not be able to see that sort of hue around this person. But you're able to do all of this because of the experiences that you put yourself through. So when you go through your life, and when you're looking back, because a lot of you are looking back, but you're looking back in a good way to sort of say goodbye and to release. But as you're release from the light and let all of the versions of yourself that previously existed, just allow them to go, and know that this was a timeline that you were clicking into. You're now firmly clicked into it. So everything that you've wanted will come to fruition, and it will actually happen quite quickly. Now, for some of you who are waiting or want true love, that essence, that kind of compatibility is absolutely coming to you. Now, you had to go through a certain amount of cleansing, not because you needed to be cleansed and to be pure. I don't like that word at all, but to be, quote unquote pure to meet the other person. Not at all, quite far from it. But you were holding so much of the energy of the world and so much of the energy of your past experiences that your intuition wasn't free to kind of to bring in this new person. So a lot of you are feeling this person in and around you, and you probably have been, from 6 months up until 18 months, if you're not in a relationship, if you are single, feeling these people come in and around you. You may have even had sort of a love affair recently that could or could not have been, or maybe, presented you with a big question mark. Is this the person that that I'm going to be with? And I'm not a fortune teller. I can't necessarily tell you that. And this reading is about you coming back into your own intuition and answering those questions for yourself. But for a lot of you, this person that just recently came in is in and around you to help you clear out and have that click of realization of who you are in this present moment. So they won't necessarily be that for you, but they are certainly preparing you in a massive way for this new person coming in. This new person, again, we won't go into twin flames or any of that stuff, but they're definitely a significant relationship insofar as you've had a past life with them, and they are creative of sorts. And I don't like the whole version of somebody else complete you, because nobody does complete you. You have to complete yourself. But they are polar opposites, and yet at the same time, personality-wise, they're polar opposites in some ways. And at the same time, you have the same moral code. You want the same thing for the world, and are willing to put in the work to do that. So that suggests to me the energy around this person coming, and suggests to me there's a significant soulmate with a significant future. So for those of you who have felt this energy around, but felt a sort of a barrier, like I feel like they're coming in, but I don't know why, and you may have lost a little bit of hope in and around whether they're coming in, or wondering if they ever will. It's a connection back into your soul. It's a connection right back into your own intuition. healing and working from the heart space only. Again, release everything that you've done previous to this, including all the work that you've done in the shadow side. Come back to the light, come back to the positivity, come back to the space that you've given other people. Now give to yourself. It's okay for you to turn your back on logic for now. I don't normally say that, but as you're in this transitional period, Pile 1, it's good for you to turn your back on logic just because you've relied on it for so long and it's only served a certain amount of purpose. And the way in which you've lived your life, it actually served a lot more purpose than it will for you now. Your purpose was aligned with protection, and as you were going through all of these different stages of who you are, as you aligned into who you are now, you needed that logic to be able to protect you. You needed that ego to be able to protect you. It may have been overprotective, as the ego is apt to do, but that's really what you needed at the time. Now the ego is still trying to employ itself in the same protective manner as is your logic, but that will not do you any good at this point. So coming back and clicking into this timeline, coming back and working purely from the light and positivity, which means trust, working from your heart chakra, working from your intuition and what your heart tells you, working specifically with your guides, understanding that the universe has never judged you and is definitely waiting to give you everything that you've wanted, but there is a timing element to it. So your doubts were, your doubts can just sort of be blown to the wind. There was still extra things for you to learn. Remember, you are exactly where you need to be. I do tell people this and they don't always like it, but you are exactly where you need to be. If you are in a situation right now, it means there's still something for you to learn from it. Now you're coming out of all of this, Pile 1, to move into your brand new existence. So your brand new existence does mean a hell of a lot of change coming in, and it does mean that the miracles are coming in, but they're not really miracles because you've been working for this your entire life one way or another. It's almost like a veil or a barrier has been moved back, and now you can see everything that you've asked for is right and ripe for the taking. But you weren't able to see that before because of the logic and the mindset that was there. That was employed, again, just to remind you, to reiterate, it was employed there before because it needed to protect you. You needed that, so there's no judgment. So it's just a matter of clicking into the perspective, moving into the light, and allowing yourself that sort of vision, this new vision of who you will not even become, but who you will sort of ride the wave of how you will move forward now, which will be very different. Your practices and will be very different. The way in which you approach your life will be very different. The way in which you work with your guides will be very different. There was still, you kept your guides back just a little bit for the protective manner. You never really completely and totally let them in. If you did, you were at a really, really low point, but you don't do that necessarily dramatically all the way through your day. So there's a surrendering process that's coming in for you. You've done elements of it, but there's still that essence of control, non-alignment, that really wanted to keep that essence of control going. But there's the sense of surrendering into the light to be able to see through that veil, be able to pull in everything that you've been working steadily and beautifully towards. And again, your guides can help you if you come out of the logic mode a little bit and really go into your heart, listen to your heart. When people say to me, I really don't know what I'm supposed to do, I always say, click into your mind. What is your mind telling you? And they always say one thing or the other. Sometimes it's confusing, but sometimes it's really strong. I'm supposed to do this. I said, that's wonderful. Now breathe and let that energy out. Now click into your heart. What is your heart telling you? What is your heart telling you? And very often it's completely different to what the mind was vehemently attached to. And if they were in any sense of confusion from the mind, the heart always tells the truth. So that's what you're being asked to do. Let's get you, we've got the Super Attractor card. I want to give you one more of these here. I slow down and listen to the guidance that's available to me. That's it. a lot of what we've been saying is the slowing down of the process, so we can really, so you can ascertain what you need to let go of. And again, there's no more work to be done, so don't get into this rabbit hole trap of I need to do more work. Quite the opposite for you. You've done all of the work and you're in the sort of evaluation stage. Now you get to choose what you want and what you don't, and you get to recreate your version of reality with your guides at this time, which has a surrendering process, which has a heartfelt guided process, and wait for those changes that are coming in and this new love that's coming in. And most of you, if they're just coming in, they're coming in very soon, probably by the end of the year, if not the beginning of next year. I'm hearing March and April for a lot of people for next year, which makes me laugh because I just got, tax season. Tax season and love. Hey, they could both go together. There you go. New romantic comedy coming out. So all you need to do is slow down and just reassess where you are, and let go of the control, into surrender, into alignment, and just breathe into this new version of self. It's very scary for some of you because you've never been here before, but it's a beautiful time for you to engage in who you are now. You are very different. And you are going to be working very differently. And for those of you who have been trying to employ the old ways of doing things and everything is just shattering apart because it's not moving forward, that's because you're being asked to move into this new version of how you will be. So it's important for you to be discerning, as always. Everybody should be right now with the information that's out there. But for you, it's even more important to be more discerning, because it's about you coming back to your heart space and understanding what you believe in. Because your logic can be like, oh, well, if everybody believes this, there might be something in it. Then you'll go down the rabbit hole and, your heart's saying, very confused. I've been triggered. I don't know what's going on, but it doesn't feel right. But why are 3 million people saying this? And that's totally fine, and it's great to sort of try on things or whatever, but none of that is really going to be of the greatest service to you right now. And it's just about coming back to your own personal space and your own personal heart space. Remember, if you're confused, check in with your head and then check in with your heart. So let's do one more for the C melodies here. See what we have for you here. But yeah, the positive outlook is definitely something that you have struggled with in the past, because when you're positive and you feel that positive, that logic comes in and says, well, the other shoe's going to drop, or this is going to happen again. Those protective measures, that ego comes in, that was employed again to help you before, did an adequate, if not beautiful job before. But the positive outlook will shift into complete positive 150% of the time once you're aligned with who you are now and that prospective person moving forward, and knowing that everything that the changes are coming, you're clicked into that timeline. So stay steady, stay fast. If the old fears come up, it's just the ego just trying to make room for itself, and it just unfortunately isn't needed anymore. Direction, trust your inner compass and find your bearings. We have chosen a better ending for you here for this reading. Absolutely trust your inner compass, trust your heart space, trust your intuition. That will lead you to your magical life. You have enough pragmatism to know that there's action that's involved in getting you there. You've never had a problem with action. If anything, you've taken action, to the next extreme, and then you're often, how did I get here? So you don't have to worry about being pragmatic or getting there. You have the drive to get there. You have the ambition to get there. You always have. It's about coming back and choosing your own direction instead of letting energy choose it for you. So I sincerely hope that resonated with you, Pal 1. That's what I have for you. If it did, do feel free to give me a thumbs up. And don't forget to use the reading again if you choose to go back to it as an activation too, as well as support. And go ahead and come and join us. Click that subscribe button and the bell icon if you want to be part of Unicorn Light Tarot, where we have these sessions twice a week, and we would love to have you. And never forget, there's many different ways. Well, there's a few ways anyway, many different ways to either get in touch or get more love and support, whatever it is that you need. We have the Unicorn School of Light, down below. Click on for many different courses, and you can, of course, for the next while anyway, I am still booking personal readings, so that's an option for you too. All right, my darlings, excited for your new venture and the new you, to be completely aligned and allowing in this energy. You've created this energy for you. It's beautiful. Now allow in the energy and let it come to fruition. No more blocking. It's up to you to choose your direction based on your heartfelt space, and that will never let you down. So stay safe and sane, and until we meet again, pile one. Okay, pile two. For you beauties who chose this pile in the tiger's eye, this is your reading. Let's not forget that it's messages from the heart, and we are channeling the heart chakra wisdom here today. And also we have activation and healing energy coming in from the candle too, and in and around the session. So use the reading for any way that you possibly need and want at this time. It works on many different levels. So we will start off with your tarot. So you have the Ace of Pentacles reversed, and you have the Six of Pentacles reversed. And let's see what else is going on here for you. Spiritual Quest. Okay. Workaholic is reversed for you too. And then you have Sacred Vision. Choose to forgive, to heal, see the light in all. Remember that love has no boundaries. And then you have Teaching and Learning. So this is definitely pile two. This is definitely a spiritual pile. This might seem a little bit ridiculous, but I'm gonna, whatever it is that I see, I let you know, and then you can choose what to take in and what not to, because you're all grown-ups. But a lot of you I'm seeing from past lives had some kind of quite religious life. Sort of one way or another, a very pious life coming into this lifetime was interesting for you, because there's a sort of a purist element to you, and yet there's a part of you that wants to experience everything to do with life, every aspect, be it what we consider good, bad, or indifferent. So there's sort of mixed energy going on here about how you fit into the world, and how it is specific, not fit into the world, specifically how you maneuver in this world. A lot of you may have felt like outcasts, or just not really had an idea of how to make the world work in and around you. So some of you may have tried to sort of come into this chameleon-esque aspect of self, which you're very good at doing, where you fit into various different positions or different types of people in and around you, but then you weren't able to really show yourself at all times. And then the other thing is that when you become this sort of chameleon type person, you become very sensitive to the versions of people that people want you to be. And then you're not always open to who you truly are. You're always sort of dumbing yourself down to fit in here, or you get an idea that if you said this joke it would offend this person, or this, that, and the other, for various different reasons. Not that you're garish or anything. But either way, you've found a way in which to seemingly work in the world, but it's worked for others more than it's worked for you. Because you're taking all the attributes that you have, and you're sort of singularly putting them in a line, and picking the ones out that you need at certain times, instead of having this sort of whole holistic experience of who you are. The other thing that's coming up for you very clearly in pile 2, and if this is resonating with you, hopefully we can help you with this today, is this version of money. You love the idea, excuse me, you love the idea of having money, and a lot of you have moved from the essence of what money can mean to you. The spiritual, and this is where the spiritual life in the past life may be coming in and hindering you a little bit. The pious life that you had before did not believe in money. You may have given away all of your possessions. And again, this is very specific, and because it's a general reading, it seems very strange that it would come up. But like I said, whatever it is that I'm shown, I always show you. So, and I try not to filter it through my version of reality. I try to tell you exactly how I'm shown. And some of it's kind of ridiculous the way I'm shown, but that's it. That's the message, and that's how it's given to me. But the pious life, you would have given away everything. So coming into this lifetime and experiencing something a little bit different could be a little bit at odds to you. So a lot of you may have struggled with money. You've had it or you haven't, or you're at the point where you've been very lucky. That you've been given exactly what you need, and you've been grateful for that. But it's never there's also a little bit of a scarcity, because there's a struggle of how you're going to keep it up or where it's coming from. There's not been an ease around money necessarily, or having that abundant lifestyle. And that's coming in from the ideology of the past life. So there's a couple of different things that we can help you out with in support. First of all, not seeing money as dirty. See it as a way of you to have the freedom that you want. Now, if some of you might be out there wanting, I want millions of dollars, I always say it's very simple. The universe spends exactly the same amount of time and energy giving you $100 than it does $10 million. Now, it's up to you. If you want the $10 million, obviously there's stuff on your part that you need to do. But if you're willing to do that, the universe is happy to give you whatever it is that you ask for. So some of you actually want to live an abundance lifestyle, and because you've come from a place that's sort of non-abundance, why wouldn't you want it? And there's a part of you that's slightly at odds with this. But if you don't see money as sort of dirty or something that you shouldn't ask for, especially as you are a spiritual person, pile two. Now, spirituality, even the word is just like, these days, because it's even spirituality. New Age has sort of been proven to be a little woo-woo, but even spirituality has become a little woo-woo these days, with all sorts of things coming up, and people going off into their conspiracy theories and whatever. And again, go down your own rabbit hole. That's your own time. No judgment. Everybody needs to go through whatever they need to go through in order to come out the other end and figure out who the hell they are, right? We're not in a position to judge. So, but it's really about, for you, coming back to that center of self and saying to yourself that, you are spiritual. And we're going to reclaim that word in this reading. You are spiritual in this lifetime. You actually do see the variance of different truths. You are actually moving beyond the ideology of this good versus evil narrative that we've been in for so many hundreds, if not thousands of years on this earth plane. And we're seeing it played out in every community, including the spiritual community, to its height, right? So you're actually here to shine the truth, the real truth. You really are the essence of true spirituality, right? So for some of you who are like, I want to be able to charge this, I want to be able to do this, it's not that you don't believe that you have the capacity to make money necessarily. There's still a little inkling of you, and I urge you to check in with your intuition to see if this is true. There's still a little inkling that feels uncomfortable a little bit about charging, that somehow it should be free. It's your time. It shouldn't be free. If you do want to do things free, there's lots of things that you can do free. Of course, that's wonderful. But for your time and energy and everything that you've been through in order to be able to gather this wisdom together, of course you should be charging. And you should have no qualms about that. And even though there's a part of you that's like, no, I totally understand that, I'm going to do it, there's still this little inkling part of you that still has this relationship with money where it's there's a little bit of guilt in and around getting that abundance, especially, or even wanting the type of abundance that you want. Is it godly? Is it, regardless of how you see God? I see God as the universe, but you could see it's all one and the same, but however you see God is however you see God. There's no right or wrong there. And also the other side of it is working very hard in order to achieve your goals. This real pious notion, again, of your past life coming in. So, and there's, that comes down to a little bit of a lack of trust that everything will work out. Again, very different energy to pile one, but something that you do have in common is the surrendering to the process and really working with your guides from your heartfelt chakra, from your intuition, 150% with them, knowing that they will guide you in a much quicker way than you had planned for yourself. So you have everything that you need to make a really righteous, beautiful, incredible, and I'm not even hearing business, I'm hearing empire. A lot of you are working in several different realms. A lot of you are working creatively, but different realms within creativity. A lot of you are in healing. You could even be in medicine, but you're bringing in, like, I'm seeing like cranial sacral stuff, from massage to whatever. But whatever it is that you do, you sort of fold in on everything that you've learned. So when somebody comes to you for wisdom, they're getting, a million different layers, from a million different sources, sourced from your own sense of objectivity, which has been really difficult, especially in this year, because we're seeing all of this, again, this polarity play out. This one side it needs to be, this other side needs to be, and you're coming from this absolute objectivity of filtering all of your wisdom from the pureness of who you are. And again, I'm not crazy about the word pure, because it's been taken to the extremes and used against people, but you're in the purest sense just means this abject need not to be right, but just to be open. So when people come to you, you absolutely have that, and it's this ingrained beauty that you have, that you innately don't necessarily trust will provide income because of the past lives that you've had, but you do trust that you know what you're doing. Occasionally, when stuff comes up, you might have this like, oh, I don't know. You might suffer a little bit from the imposter syndrome, but I feel as though that's normal. That's what everybody goes through. There's nothing about that that really needs to be worked on. That's just old stuff coming up to be released. But you do believe in who you are. It's just about your new relationship. Again, the surrendering process, coming back to source, and really realizing your relationship with abundance and what success means to you, what abundance truly means to you. I want to remind you of something too. You're the sort of person that would help anyone out. The more resources you have, the more you can help and support other people too. And this is something that you absolutely have always had, even in your past lives, very much true to soul. You are in service for whatever it is that you're doing. You are only really truly happy. Your soul is only truly singing when you're in service. Now, if that means writing your book, if that means, doing your poetry, singing that song, operating on that person, or bringing that person back to a grounded sense of self, providing support for that person when they don't have support anywhere else. However it is that you do it, an amalgam of all of these that you do every single day, you're always in service. So to be rewarded for that service and that pure service of heart, you're here to really shine that light. There's been a lot of light that's been shined recently, and it's going into the depths of darkness, and that's wonderful too. That light that people are holding is shining light on the darkness, and people have gone off in all sorts of different directions recently, and that's where we need to be, and that's wonderful. But you're shining the light through the light. The prisms are coming through all the light, and that's really what we've always needed. You're holding that grounded sense of self, that grounded notion of knowing who you are. You do your work, you listen, and it's absolutely beautiful. So you're always in service, and you're always in service to the light. Sometimes we're in service to the light, but the darkness has to come in so we can work through that. We're filtered through the darkness so we can work through that on a personal, interpersonal, and community and global level. And we're seeing this polarity play out. Again, the good versus evil narrative that we've had, it's so old. We've had it for so long. And why, you hold the notion, which is absolutely understandable, that everybody has light and dark. Nobody is just light. Nobody is just dark. Everybody has light and dark. So you have this objectivity to you that's grounded and gorgeous. So everything that shines through you, your wisdom shines through you, it's through the light. So the truth is able to pass through you very easily. And that's exactly what we need to do. You're also not the sort of person that says that they're right. You're willing to learn. So you understand that you're teaching as well as you're learning at all times. And, for you, it's mainly about standing in your own power and not working so hard not necessarily to put yourself out there, a little bit putting yourself out there, but It's more about really relaxing into this notion of pure service, of really understanding that that abundance is there for you and there's no shame in it whatsoever. The more you have, the more you can support. And this you know at a level, and you would absolutely do that. So again, pop back into your existences about what you feel about money. The easiest way to do it, again, just to reiterate, is to come back to the notion of that it's freedom, and that you should be for the for balance. For the energy that you put out, the abundance will come back in and keep everything balanced. See it as freedom. And really, you can be synonymous with having a spiritual quest without really, trying to balance the notion of how much does that look like. You can be extremely successful. You can have millions in the bank and still be a very spiritual person. You absolutely can. Now, if there's an essence of yourself that's going, I don't know, or is slightly triggered from that statement, that's wonderful. Look into that trigger. See where it is. It's not inbred or ingrained anymore, but it keeps coming up for you. And at times, and at worst, and it's not even that bad, but at worst, it blocks you from source. It blocks you working with source in the way that you can to bring in this power and this manifestation that you have with just being who you are, and being sort of in alignment with love. Knowing that there's profound love everywhere. Love is everywhere. For some of you, and again, these are always general readings, if this part resonates, I don't know how much this is going to resonate with everybody, but for some of you who are seeing the polarity out there in the world, which is totally understandable, and getting really distressed, and seeing the sort of the negative and the darkness in the world, and we're not going to suggest that it's not there. Not at all. The darkness is, excuse me, absolutely there and has been highlighted recently. But for you, to come back to your sense of self, to come back to your heart chakra and your heart wisdom, really release into that energy of surrender and working with your guides in a way that they can bring you to this new level of where letting love shine everywhere. You see love wherever it is, even in the darkness. Love to be in that darkness so we can completely expel it. And loving the process of having to go through that darkness. Instead of seeing darkness and being weighed down by the darkness all the time, you can see the darkness coming to the light. And the fact that there's so much around us right now is just showing you that it's no longer hidden. And in that, there is gloriousness and there is beauty. So coming back to that balanced sense of self, again, surrendering into who you are, working with your guides in this brand new sort of way that really allows in this beautiful abundance. There's nothing more that you need to do in any way, shape, or form to be able to get there. You've done the work. You're always going to be working throughout your life. You're that sort of person. But you have enough wisdom to get to where you need to be. It's just about having that little sort of those circumstances, those magical instances that come in, those synchronicities that come in that move you forward. And that's what is coming in for you in the surrendering process and working from the heart chakra completely, working from your intuition. And just allowing everything to be where it is. There's some of you are such extreme empaths that it physically hurts you when other people hurt each other. It physically hurts you. Now, that's beautiful to be that in service to the world, but you're not supposed to have the world on your shoulders. Once you release, what you do is you connect with the universe in a brand new way. They can not only bring in that abundance, but they can take that burden off your shoulders and give you that breathing room to move into that space of abundance that you've been eagerly working towards. So just a few shifts in perception here will bring you there. Let's see, we've got the super attractor here. We're not doing reverse on this. So what does it say? The universe is always conspiring to support me, guide me, and lead me compassionately toward the highest good. The word conspiring is a really interesting choice here. I wouldn't have chosen that word myself, but I love it though. I love it. And again, the universe is always there to support you, guide you, and lead you toward the highest good if you let it. And in the surrendering process, that's when you get to the highest good. And from that highest good, you take that light and that objectivity and that beautiful light of going through all the prisms, through the purity of all this this polarity, and you'll be able to sort of you rise up in the way that you want to. It's really absolutely glorious. So we also have the C melodies here. So just working with, and again, just really check in with, there's not a lot of work to do here with how you see money, but I would do a meditation on it. There's a meditation somewhere. If I find it, I will list it down below. There's a meditation somewhere that talks about money being an elemental energy, which I absolutely truly love, because money is actually energy. So, you know, when you work with the elements, there's a sense of balance, you're inviting them in, and there's a headspace. And once you see money this way, you can't really go back to seeing it as something that you don't think that you deserve, or you're worried about asking for it. You know, so if I can find that, I will list that down below for you. But you can put in meditation, money, elementals, or elemental energy, and it should come up, hopefully, if it's still out there. Flow. Let your worries drift away. Absolutely. And I love that word flow. That's an excellent word for you, pile 2. An excellent word for you to end, for us to end this reading. Flow. You have these ebbs and flows. When you're in the moment, when you're flowing, you are flowing. But then you know, with these mindsets, sometimes you can sink your boat, sink your ship sometimes. This is a way for you to move forward, to have the capacity to bring in more and more and more, and build your sort of, and again, kept seeing the word empire. So there's lots of different things that you'll be bringing in and be very successful at. You're amazing multitaskers. And some of you are only truly happy when you're working on several different things going on. Again, you know, if one energy moves to one, so you can finish off that one, but then you'll go back to the other two, but you'll start 3 or 4 things at the same time. And this is the energy that you are going with the flow. Again, coming back to intuition. As we said in pile 1, ask what your head, and you can do this for money. You know, when you ask your head, what does your mind tell you about your stance with money, where you're coming from? And then breathe that energy out, and then check in with your heart space. What does your heart tell you when you ask about money, your relationship with money? What does your heart tell you? You know, to check in with that. But you're here to build your empire. You're ready to do that. There's not much more for you to do. You're here to have that spiritual, beautiful life, but also be, you know, very grounded into the sense of abundance, and have that kind of life, and be there as a physical support for other people. So there's no reason for you not to be able to balance that. Remember, it's okay to shut out the energy of the world right now while they're going through this real concentrating on the darkness. That's fine. We need to do that to move through it. But it's okay for you to shut that out. You've gone there. You've done that. For you to concentrate on the light and resurrecting your spirit right into the mode of working with, through the veil of the surrendering process, and working with keeping in with your flow, and working with the universe in a sort of a brand new way. You've worked with this and it's been successful, but you've never consistently necessarily worked and been in the flow and allow your life to go in that direction. And you can wake up every morning, check in with your mind, check in with your heart. What is it that I'm looking for today? What is it that I'm looking for? What is it that I need today? Your heart will tell you. And then if you surrender to that process, the universe will bring that in all the time, all the time. Have you ever had a conversation with somebody and it seems like a random thing that you're talking about, and then all of a sudden you'll have a conversation with somebody else, and out of nowhere they'll bring it up too, and you're suddenly seeing it everywhere? Or you talk about yellow cars, and then all of a sudden you only see yellow cars. It's like whatever you focus on, we know comes in. But setting that intention in the morning for you as you're setting this up as a real sort of powerful way of supporting you while you're working through this, and while you're building your life of flow and abundance, waking up every morning, deciding what it is that you want to do, staying in that heart space, and really giving that space to surrender for the universe to bring that in for you every day. Check in with your heart, check in with your mind. More often than not, 9 times out of 10, they'll be completely different, but your heart will tell you, connected right into your intuition, and working from your heart, which takes a hell of a lot of courage, but you have that courage. You'll be able to do that, Pal 2, will bring you your magical life. So that's what I have for you, Pal 2. Do let me know in the comments below if this resonated with you, and do feel free to give me a thumbs up. And of course, come join us, subscribe, hit that bell icon if you're not a part of the Unicorn Light Tarot family yet. We'd love to have you. And there's lots of different, well, I keep saying lots. There's ways of getting more support and love and being around this energy down below if you want to check out the Unicorn School of Light. We have several beautiful courses going on. One of them is absolutely free. I'll be working on new courses in the new year, next year. And for now, I think I'm still open, depending on, you can always check. I go back and forwards. I don't always have time for personal readings, but right now I probably will. So yeah, if you're feeling called to, check in. If it's meant to be, it'll happen. That's what I always say. All right, my darlings, Pal 2, go be you and shine that light. Stay safe and sane until we meet again. Bye-bye. Hello, Pal 3. If you chose this gorgeous turquoise, I'm going to put it right there. I think it looks really pretty. Then this is your reading. As a reminder, it's a healing activation. However you want to use this reading and session is completely up to you. We are doing messages from your heart, and we are channeling heart chakra wisdom here today. So we will start off with your tarot and then move into your oracle cards here. So you have the 3 of Swords is your first. Make sure that you can see that. And then you have the Page of Swords. There's a few different things going on there. And then we also have Divine Support from Lord Ganesha here. Gorgeous message. Victim. And green chakra, green, which is your heart chakra here too. And then we have higher learning. You have learned from experience. More inner study is now required to further progress. And then we have healing, 662. So there's a, I'd like to say, I don't think, I don't want to put down the cards or anything, but I don't think there's much more inner study necessarily for you to move forward in the way that you want to. But we will say that there is just a click in perception, perhaps, just to be very, very clear, Pile 3. There's definitely a heart healing coming out to you today in this reading. So hopefully you will get that. Yeah, just deep breathing and really sit with where you are right now. There's a lot of deep healing going on insofar as the way in which you've been treated. It's not been great for a lot of you. Again, we always say as a disclaimer, these are general messages, but I tell you exactly what it is that I'm told and what I see. So if it resonates with you, then it does, and certain aspects of the reading may or may not, depending on. But there's been a lot. You've definitely been the sort of person that people have projected upon. You also felt a little bit lost about who you were, insofar as you have a little bit of this in common with Pile 2, but very different energy, insofar as you've hidden a lot of who you were in order to protect it. There was an essence of you that got the impression, whether the people around you or the circumstances around you wanted you to get that impression or not, is that you were very different than everybody else. So for instance, you may have been born into, a very religious family when you were more spiritually inclined. Or that you saw sort of the nonsensical element of certain aspects of religion that you may have asked questions about and no one really answered you. They'll say, well, it's just faith. It's just this, that, and the other. Always getting to the bottom of things and finding the truth within for you. You're definitely a truth seeker. pile 3, and you don't take things at face value. But wherever you were put, you always made the best of those situations. And you certainly found people who were sort of on your level one way or another a little bit. But there was always a sense that you were on the outside looking in. And so you learned a little bit to present certain aspects of yourself, and I think this happened in pile 1 too. When the time was right, if there was a part of yourself that would sort of freak people out, you would pull that back in a little bit, and you were very sensitive to other people's needs. But then there came a time where people were sensing that about you anyway. There seems to be a lot of judgment around you, pile 3. And people, you were easy to judge, or people felt like you were easy to judge. And of course, the judgment that people give is very much from the limited perception of where they are. And we definitely know that, and we know that now. But as you were growing up, you may have taken that on a little bit as truth. And you may have also invested some of your time in the wrong kind of people. And you also, some of you, again, if this resonates with you, you may have been attracted to the sort of dark side too. The idea of, I don't really properly fit in completely somewhere. I have little pockets of places that I feel relatively comfortable in, that makes me want to stay on this earth, but I don't click in anywhere. So I want to be bad. I want to experience this. I want to see what the good, bad thing is. And, and again, the experience of just putting yourself into that experience just to see what it's like. Because your notion of good and bad would have been slightly different to everybody else's. Because if you're coming from, again, a lot of you, I keep feeling, is coming from a very sort of religious kind of background where there were very black and white versions of things. And for you may have had that sort of like fear-based mentality in and around you that created this sort of separation of black and white and good and bad and good and evil, which we're seeing playing out in the world right now. But for you, your higher sense never really believed in any of that. So you kind of wanted to experience the darkness. Some of you may have happily have stepped both feet into these experiences just to see, what they were like. Some of you would be excellent reporters and going in. I mean, even things like sort of... I keep getting like serial killers, or, that really seeing the darkness of people's minds, like looking that up and researching that sort of thing. You're sort of fascinated by the mind and where it goes because it's very powerful, and the darkness that it can hold. And you don't take things at face value when people tell you, oh, that person's horrible, that person's bad. You're like, you're usually like best friends with them, So it's... for you, it's this sort of this division of faith of who you are based on what people have projected upon you. And, and there was, you were in and around, there's two different levels to this victimhood. You were in and around people who claim they were victims a lot. Like you've attracted people who had the victim mentality. And you've always given space to people who have the victim mentality. And of course, the victim mentality can be a tough one because, it's not always appropriate to say, get your shit together. You can't, victim mentality is going to keep you down. Sometimes people are in the victim mentality, need a huge hug, and they need the opposite of that, and sometimes, it's very difficult to sort of ascertain where you are with that. And the victim mentality is very much a mentality, I feel, that needs to be played out by the person, because if you play into the drama, it precedes it and it keeps going. You never really help the person. And this is something that you have found, but you've attracted a lot of dramatic people. You've attracted a lot of victim mentality people. You may not have known at the beginning, be able to label victimhood, people who are in the victim mentality, because you were brought up with so much drama, or you were in and around so much drama, or very fast paced, like people coming in and out, not a lot of peace, where your foundation wasn't secure. So you weren't able to really pick them out immediately. But now you know exactly what a victim mentality looks like. It's actually pretty succinct. And there's not much to it. So you can see it. You've also identified it within yourself. And this you've been able to extract and really refigurate. And you're working on the essence of, you've always worked on the essence of boundaries, but you're working on healing the heart space anyway from, perceived betrayals. And when we say perceived, we want to be really clear. A lot of people, a lot of the ways in which you have been treated have been unjust. So we don't want to say that you're not coming from a place of betrayal, but we want you to reclaim the word betrayal in a brand new way and kind of take it one step further. It's understanding that people were doing the best that they could. Now, we want to be really clear, and I've said this quite a few times on this channel. This never negates anybody's terrible actions. If somebody's been horrible and have done something to you, even abuse or anything shadowing or in and around that, we're not suggesting that, I'm not big on this idea that, you need to forgive and forget. You need to do whatever you need to do to move away from that energy full on. And if the forgiveness is the forgiveness in and around you, but you don't have to accept the other person. You can move on without doing that. That will come in time if it ever comes. There's never any time in a relationship where you accept that happened. You can accept that you were there. You can accept that it happened and you were there, but you don't have to accept the behavior from the other person. So when we say preconceived notion of betrayal, it's pulling your energy back, pulling your power back out of that situation by really coming into who you are and really accepting who you were in all of these situations where people played the victim with you, right? And healing that heart space that goes on within it. Knowing that your truth and the person that you are never shifted or never shuddered when you were in and around the sort of victimhood mentality. And this victimhood mentality really alerted you to your own sense of victimhood mentality, where there's an essence of you that just is crying out to be seen and to be accepted. And that's why in and around all of these people that had, these issues really, that had, the victimhood issue, and that were really blaming the external for everything that was going on with them. And also the other thing, you may have been around a dramatic people where everything bad happened to them. And you would be like, I don't even know how, I don't know how many bad things can happen to one person, but it always happens. And then this person go, I don't know how this happens to me, and not understanding that energy, there needs to be a cleansing of that energy to stop that. But of course, we can't say, you're the one that's creating this. That's not fair. That's not fair to that person. That's probably not what that person needs either. But seeing it objectively, being in and around the energy of people that either had a lot of dramatic situations, a lot of victimhood mentality, and the people who had a lot of dramatic situations going on had victimhood mentality or had people around them that were like them. They had this sort of, they weren't moving out of, or people who had a lot of addictions, they weren't moving out of, they were seeking out the same kind of energy. So of course they weren't able to get out of it themselves. And that's, again, the growth and the truth that they need to come to themselves. But while you were in those circumstances, you were always committed 150% to be the best person that you could be. Always. So if you were betrayed, and we're going to say that you were, if you were betrayed in certain situations, you did the best you could because you were always thinking of the other person. And the reason why you were there with the other person is because you just wanted to be seen. There was something in them that was attractive to you. And it wasn't the victim mentality. There was a beauty in them that you were attracted to, and you wanted to be seen by them, and you wanted to be accepted by them. Now, you couldn't be accepted by them because they couldn't accept themselves. But we want you to go back and really see all of these situations that brought you betrayal into your life, and see where you were and where you didn't get the acceptance from the other person, from the external. We want you to go back and give that to yourself, because you held tight in every of those situations. You did everything you could with every one of those people. You did the best you could. In many situations, you even tried to repair by saying, hey, let's work on this. It's getting a little dark in here, pile 3. Let's shed some light. Ta-da! You've really sat with some of these personalities, and you really try to work with them and say, let's move to the next level. This X, Y, and Z is going on, and where you may not have used the word victimhood, you try to work with them because you wanted to keep them in your life. But in many instances, they just didn't get it, or they just fell away. Or they, when you tried to speak, you tried to move the relationship forward, they weren't able to do it and they fell away, or they fought you on, or however it is that it worked out. They fell away and they're no longer in your life, and that's fine. You're in a reflective period, which is wonderful. Now, the reflective period we're hoping for you, Pal 3, is for you to bring in your own truth, for you to acknowledge that you were the shining light in each and every one of these situations. That's not to say that you're a Godhead and that you've never messed up. That's not what we're saying, but you've learned from your mistakes and you've tried to be the best that you possibly can be. And at the very least, you are completely responsible for your own energy, and the others around you just aren't. They're still looking for blame or, some kind of something from the external, and you're no longer doing that, because that's a waste of time for you. You know it's not going to happen. So there's profound healing, profound balance coming in for you, Pal 3, as you tune in to your heart chakra, as you really clear out and heal your heart chakra, coming into this sense of beauty of who you are and accepting yourself on all levels and in all situations. There's no point in just accepting yourself where you are now. You must accept yourself from, you don't have to do anything. But if you want to, going back and accepting every version of you as you went through and learned and were in and around these people and did the best you could, accepting and loving yourself in all of those situations will be wonderful. It will help you appreciate the person that you are now. And again, that acceptance, that sight, that being seen, that you've been looking for in the external will come from you in this time. And that's where this ultimate healing will come in. You'll appreciate yourself on a new level. Once you appreciate yourself on this new, true, accepting level, this area of surrounding and moving in to this new level of abundance and working with your guides in sort of a brand new, authoritative way, will be unique to you. Now, you've always been very connected with your guides and you're extremely powerful. You may have even used your power against you, certainly dumbed it down. For a lot of you, again, a general reading, but for a lot of you have been somewhat afraid of your power a little bit, and you've worked, you've shuffled in, you've shuffled there, you've never really just opened up and said, what have I got here? Because that's not the way you needed to do it. There was incremental healing that needed to happen with you because you are that powerful. And to really let it open at certain times, you may have overwhelmed your sort of psyche, but you've been activated. Everybody's been activated this year one way or another. Some people have just been triggered, but there's been some level of activity, and how we choose to heal with it, of course, is up to us. With free will zone, and that's just the way it is on Earth, and that's wonderful. Wonderful, right? But you've been activated all the way through 2020, and so you've been opened up to all of these sort of beautiful ways for you to release and really walk into and hone into your power in brand new ways. So you're really experiencing from the inside out your profound power here, and it's extreme. And the last part of this is coming together. The last two parts of the jigsaw puzzle is really you healing your sense of betrayal, but understanding you had that wisdom and you had that beauty. You held your truth in every one of these situations, and accepting and seeing yourself in every one of these situations, so you can really rectify this idea that you've gotten along the line that you're never quite good enough. And actually the truth is, and we don't like saying this, but we're just going to say it for you to bring it back into balance. You can understand what we're saying. In many ways, you were better than, in many circumstances and in many situations with others. But we don't actually mean that you're better than anyone else. We're only suggesting that you see it this way just because, your area of self-love has been so low sometimes. We'd even say for some of you, self-hatred, based on how you've been treated, just to bring yourself up to that real balance, that real integrity of balancing everything out. We're gonna overplay it by saying you were better than. But once you come into that sense of balance, you will of course know that you see yourself in everyone and everything, and we are not better than anyone else. And we won't even need to be at that level where we think we're at anybody else. Or the other notion of that is that, not necessarily feeling as though we're better than anyone else, but feeling that we're right. Whatever we feel is right, whatever we say is right. That's another offshoot of thinking that you're better than somebody else. It just shows a narrow platform, a narrow mind, a narrow way of seeing it. And again, there's no judgment. It's free will. Everybody needs to work through it, and we have to have compassion for people. We should have compassion for people if we can. If people are coming from a sense of I'm right and you're wrong, they've narrowed their version of the world because they're fearful. Open people who are open are not fearful of the truth, of there being variants of the truth, of learning more, or of being wrong and saying, oh, okay, I thought that way. Oh, that's wonderful. All right, now I see this from your point of view. That's wonderful. Anybody who's open, who doesn't live in fear, has that open mentality, and that's who you are. Now, you weren't in and around a lot of people that had that sort of open mentality, and if they did have that open mentality, it was mechanical. They were either addicts, so they were open while they were under the influence, but then it went away. It wasn't infused with their actual soul. They had to seek out a sort of a synthetic version in order to be open. So again, we're gonna give you a super attractor card. But again, this ultimate healing of coming back to your source and giving yourself that beauty of leveling up for that self-acceptance and seeing yourself and all these fragments come back together when you look back on your life and pull in everything and be grateful for every version of yourself that's coming in. This new level of support that you have when your heart chakra is really going to heal, and it's gonna heal in this extreme beautiful way. It's gonna heal every fabric, every layer, and everything's gonna get stitched up. And I don't want to sound cheesy here. I have an element of my personality that's a little bit cheesy, but I don't usually do it on this channel. But you're gonna see the beauty in everything, and you're gonna be overcome with the gorgeousness of things where you can't keep it in, and you're gonna be weeping. That's the level of coming into your heart that we're going to expect for you, Pile 3, that you're absolutely ready for, on the precipice of receiving if you haven't already. So let's see, is this one or two? Oh, this is one. Okay. When I live and act from a place of spiritual alignment, I can trust that everything is working out for me, even if I don't know when or how it will happen. Absolutely. And this new profound strength and support that you have, divine support that you have, where you can surrender in. What's the other thing that you did? You dreamed big, but then you brought it down, because, there's a realist aspect to you. You can just get rid of that realist aspect. You were here to be magical. You were here to be, to daydream. You're daydreamers, but you were here to bring in those active daydreams. You're here to show that magic. You're here to be open. You're here to be beautiful. You're here to actually work from the heart chakra wisdom, and you're ready for that. So anything that holds you back, you're working on now, in this profound love that you have for yourself coming in. Anything that you needed from the external, you're going to provide for yourself. Absolutely. And this real sense of adventure coming back for you, to see where everything goes, and to be really inquisitive without needing to know the evidence, which is something that you would have done before when you were trying to control and not in alignment. And that's totally understandable, because we all need to make our mortgage or put food on the table or whatever. It's easy to get into this pragmatic notion of what we think we need to do, because there are things that just need to be done. and it was easy for you to fall back into that sort of mindset, and then that the magical mindset came out when you had time. But this is all integrating right into it. It would be great for you, I think it's the one before here, to do which witch is you. Even if you don't believe in witchcraft or anything, it's really about, not about spell work or anything. Abundance, bringing in abundance and manifestation, working with the laws of the universe is energy seeking. It's working with the energy. It's spell work in some form, but have some fun with it. I would go and check in with that video, with those readings, if you haven't already, and choose which witch are you, and just have some fun with it. You might get some extra insights there for your loving heart. So we have the sea melodies here. Turbulence. The mind is murky in rough waters, and that's where you're coming out of. Let's choose another one. I got this one for you. Here, journey. Half the treasure is the journey on the path to finding it. Absolutely. Coming out of this turbulent measure of existence, where you're measuring your existence and who you are based on the external and what people have projected upon you, pulling in that self-love and acceptance, seeing yourself and appreciating everything that you've done and who you are, healing those notions of betrayal, coming into your new sense of journeying and adventure and enjoying all of it without seeing where you're going to end up, enjoying the moment of where you are, that pleasure of where you are, and that gorgeous magical insight that you have integrated into every sense of self. And again, coming back to that wisdom of the heart chakra, healing, having it sewn up and seeing the beauty of the world with your true openness, and just allowing things to unfold, and having that sort of that mystical element of working with your guides again. And this is a gorgeous, beautiful time for you to spend some time with yourself, and spend some time with great books and poetry and nature, and whatever it is that brings you back to yourself, and really just appreciate the turbulent times that you've been through and the people that have come into your life, to make space now for these gorgeous soul family members, new love, new essences of new profound ways to bring in abundance and manifestation in your life. All of this is shifting for you. Expect a new kind of energy in and around you. You'll feel it, a new level of protection that you've never felt before, because you've never really allowed it in. New level of power, bringing in those fragments of where you've given your power away and pulling it back in and saying, I'm done. This is me. And just loving every aspect of you, because you are absolutely gorgeous, complex, beautiful, and there's no one that has a more truer heart than you. So appreciate you for who you are. So pile 3, that's what I have for you. I hope that resonated with you and you got some healing and at the very least support for yourself. If it did resonate, do feel free to give me a thumbs up and let me know in the comments. I love hearing from you guys. I truly do. And do not forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon if you are not part of the Unicorn Light Tarot family. We would love to have you here. And as always, there are other ways to stay in this support. We have the Unicorn School of Light down below with some gorgeous courses. We have one of them for free. And hundreds of you have already enrolled in them, and I've had a wild time. And for now, I go backwards and forwards, usually backwards when it comes to personal readings, because I really never have time. But if there's a collection of people that are coming in at the same time and are desiring readings, I very often give a little space, because I figure you guys need them. And that's where I'm at right now. So still a little bit of space for personal readings if you feel like it. And if not, in a couple months, 6 months, or whenever I open up the space again, it'll be there. I feel like for readings and for everything, all of that is timing, and that just sort of works out when it's supposed to. But anyway, check everything out down below. There's extra ways to be in and around this energy. Love and light to you. So much love and light. Pile 3, please stay safe and sane. And until we meet again, bye-bye.